as Bandu took a bunch of children to use as experiments. Brave children who do not falter even at the prospect of setting foot inside the chasm. Please take a step forward. From there, we see what his base of operations looks like, and how Nanachi and Midi, another girl that was taken in by Bandu, become close friends. Midi is taken to be experimented on, and this is where we overhear a conversation between Bandu and one of his assistants, since Nanachi is trying to follow where Midi was taken. He is reprimanded for bringing children who will never be able to return, and that from a humanitarian perspective, this is just wrong. Bandu is quick to respond and says there's no need to worry since he's not making use of them as humans. Nanachi is also captured and placed in a large container next to Midi, and that's when we get to see Bandu's motive. The 6 layers curse, death or loss of one's humanity. I'd sure like to do something about it. Those chambers you are in are capable of forcing the curse all to one side. Attempts that paired a person with something besides a fellow human didn't go well. However, Nanachi just happened to come join us. I regret having to use 2 adorable little beings such as yourselves, but as you two are such close friends, I'm sure this shall be a success.
He said he regrets though. Nigga, that might be a lie. You don't hear niggas say some shit. You don't care about it. Regret.
I don't really think nobody fucking with me anyway, you know what I'm saying? 24 fucking hundred. I come from that fucking block. I been out that Johnny up and up that cutter. If we cannot get.
Welcome back. We back with another reaction video. Today we're reacting to the Masked Man video. The most vile villain ever in anime and manga. Now, due to my prior knowledge, I thought it was Griffith. But nigga, the thumbnail said worse than Griffith. Like, if you get worse than that nigga, how do you get worse than Griffith? The only way you really get worse than Griffith is if you were actually friends with him. Not just manipulating him into believing, yeah, bro, we're friends. Wow, nigga, use a tool, man.
I want you to imagine for a moment that you were abducted as a child. You were thrown into a human-sized container and lowered with someone else in the container next to you. Once you both hit bottom, both containers are raised rapidly. You see the person next to you take on a different appearance, but you, on the other hand, decompose painfully. You scream, it hurts over and over as your flesh melts on your bones, and you become a puddle of skin and organs, writhing in pain, but still alive. Now imagine if I told you that doesn't even come close to capturing the full image of the person responsible for this. There are a few candidates worthy of the title of most vile villain in anime and manga. Shout out to Mullet Man for giving the blessing for the video, but those candidates.
Okay. Most sauce to find. Shout out Mullet Man.
Candidates would be Shiro from Blade of the Immortal, Kakihara from Ichi the Killer, Seiko from Blood on the Tracks, and of course Griffith from Berserk. I want to delve into villain in anime and manga. Shout out to Mullet Man for giving the blessing for the video, but those candidates would be Shiro from Blade of the Immortal.
Shiro from Blade of the Immortal. Oh, I gotta do some research. Let's see. Damn, bro, my pencil. Blade. Immortal.
Kakihara from Ichi the Killer.
From what killer? Can I get captions real quick? I'm sorry, what?
Seiko from Blood. There are a few candidates worthy of the title of most vile villain in anime and manga. Shout out to Mullet Man for giving the blessing for the video, but those candidates would be Shiro from Blade of the Immortal, Kakihara from Ichi the Killer.
Oh, Ichi the Killer. I think I've heard of that one though. Ichi Killer. Hey man, I'm always looking for some new media to consume.
Killer, Seiko from Blood on the Tracks.
Seiko from Blood on the Tracks. That sound like a you and I type thing. Yeah, man. Nigga self-destructing on the screen type. Blood on the Tracks. She pushed him.
And of course Griffith from Berserk. I want to delve into this idea of vile, however, since it's an interesting thought on why we see characters like these as the most vile, instead of ones that from a number standpoint have done a lot more damage in their respective worlds.
Like
for example, someone like Frieza from Dragon Ball or any other mass-murdering maniac. Why do we see certain villains in a far more negative light than others, despite the damage they do being relatively less? A book I read called The Anatomy of Evil, written by Michael H. Stone, gives an interesting point on what causes us to have a visceral reaction to certain things. Very early on in the book, he gives an example of a case where a man under the influence of drugs shot 3 people. 2 lived and 1 died. But one of the survivors had been blinded in both eyes and had just gotten married last week. The jury showed a strong reaction to what happened to the blinded man, even more than the man who had actually been killed.
Wow, that's
Why is that? In the previous paragraph, the book says,
because now he gotta live with his suffering. But yo, that nigga, I gotta be blind because of this random man. and I'm about to get married, or I just got married.
Quote, ironically, certain crimes amounting to less murder will be experienced as more clearly evil than murder itself, because of the suffering involved, coupled with our very human tendency to identify with the victim and to imagine how the crime would have affected us had we been the victim. I think this portion is very telling of how we perceive stories told to us, like if we were a jury judging these characters. Hence why characters that from a pure numbers view are more evil, we don't really throw them up there when talking about vile. I seriously doubt any of us cringed physically when Planet Vegeta was being blown to smithereens. The names I listed earlier, on the other hand, are seen as some of the most disgusting and incomprehensibly evil individuals. I would like to talk about who I think could be the most vile villain in anime and manga, despite only being around for 10 chapters in a manga, or in anime form, 1
Bruh, 10 chapters? 10 chapters? Nah, he on some other shit.
film. Bondrewd, the Sovereign of the Dawn from Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is an ongoing series that started in 2012 and suffers from hiatus, and so it seems,
He said Bond.
despite only being around for 10 chapters in a manga, or in anime form, 1 film. Bondrewd, the Sovereign of the Dawn from Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is an ongoing series that started in 2012 and suffers from hiatus, and so it seems to have a low chapter count at 67, but each chapter I think is very efficient in moving the story forward. I bring this up because despite only being around in present time for 9 to 10 chapters, technically starting at chapter 29, the story does a really good job of getting the most out of his peculiar personality and horrendous actions. Bondrewd is mentioned back in chapter 15 as one of the White Whistles, individuals known to be the best cave raiders, people who traverse the extremely dangerous layers of the abyss. The first White Whistle we meet is Ozen the Immovable, someone of supreme strength and a horrifyingly cold and blunt personality who explains the dangers of traversing the lower layers to Reg and Rico, the two primary characters of the story. She is stated to be unrivaled in physical strength amongst the White Whistles, and given what we know of her, it is safe to say her words carry weight and credibility. This is important for context because as she lists the dangers of the abyss and the White Whistles who are in the lower layers, she sings.
It's been 10 years on the surface, but if we assume that only a few years have passed at the bottom of the netherworld, don't you get the feeling there's a very good chance she's alive and well? We selling false hope to kids?
Out Bondrewd. Even so, you should do your best not to stay in the 5th layer for long. Reg asks why that is, and Ozen responds so that you don't bump into any of the other White Whistles. The depth's 5th layer, the Sea of Corpses, is as deep as humans can go and return alive. I suppose some of them are there. Those who are down in the abyss right now are the Sovereign of Guidance, Wakuna the Chosen, the Sovereign of Mystery, Shraja the Mysterious, the Sovereign of Dawn, Bondrewd the Novel. Among them, Bondrewd in particular is an out-and-out scoundrel. He's not kind like I am, so you better be careful. Mind you, at this point, this is coming from the character that just beat Reg damn near within an inch of his life to prove a point. It's always an effective thing to have other characters speak on an antagonist and build up the reputation of that character, and then we see said antagonist confirm the fears through their actions. If the character is pompous and full of themselves, then it's no surprise if the villain sort of hypes themselves up, but when trying to build up a character that isn't going to be present for a bit, I really do think it's a simple but powerful method of adding weight to that character. Ozen being the communicator.
I understand that, but sometimes these niggas be overly gassing a nigga, and then it gets to a point where they build it up like, oh nah, he gotta be one of the worst people ever. And then you see it and you be like, this niggas? Nah, it be too much of that. Like, bro, don't subvert my goddamn. You just did all of this building up for what? This nigga's a bomb.
Of said information isn't shown to be a dishonest individual. If anything, she can be faulted for being too honest. But in this context, she has seen the terrors of the abyss and has been affected by it, and is now warning these two who want to venture into its depths. I didn't catch this at first, but since it's one of the only descriptions we get of Bondrewd before meeting him, I looked into the definition of scoundrel since I believe that word was used intentionally, at least in translation. A dishonest and unscrupulous person, a rogue. And unscrupulous is defined as having or showing no moral principles, not honest or fair. In retrospect, scoundrel is without a doubt the perfect word to describe Bondrewd, someone who you cannot let your guard down around, an untrustworthy individual who has no conscience, is unethical, immoral, or the more appropriate word would actually be amoral. This is the portrait painted to us about Bondrewd, and how foreign parents describe their children when they grow their hair out. The next time we get a look into Bondrewd is through the perspective of Nanachi, the third primary character of the story who clearly has ties to Bondrewd, a flashback scene where he praises her for the new cartridge and tells her to smile since the experiment was a success. So despite him, again, really only being around and active for 10 chapters, he's given a healthy amount of build-up and is directly responsible for the most infamous scene in the entire series, really one of the most unsettling and brutal scenes in anime as a whole. During this flashback scene, we see how Nanachi went from a normal girl to having the form she does now, as Bondrewd took a bunch of children to use as experiments. Brave children who do not falter even at the prospect of setting foot inside the chasm, please take a step forward. From there, we see what his base of operations looks like, and how Nanachi and Midi, another girl that was taken in by Bondrewd, become close friends. Midi is taken to be experimented on, and this is where we overhear a conversation between Bondrewd and one of his assistants, since Nanachi is trying to follow where Midi was taken. He is reprimanded for bringing children who will never be able to return, and that from a humanitarian perspective, this is just wrong. Bondrewd is quick to respond and says there's no need to worry since he's not making use of them as humans. Nanachi is also captured and placed in a large container next to Midi, and that's when we get to see Bondrew's motive. The 6 layers curse, death or loss of one's humanity. I'd sure like to do something about it. Those chambers you are in are capable of forcing the curse all to one side. Attempts that paired a person with something besides a fellow human didn't go well. However, Nanachi just happened to come join us. I regret having to use 2 adorable little beings such as yourselves, but as you two were such close friends, I'm sure this shall be a success.
He said he regrets though. Nigga, that might be a lie. You ever hear niggas say some shit? You don't care about it. Regret.
Midi says they were tricked, and Bondrew tells them that thanks to all of them, the darkness shall be driven out of this chasm. They weren't tricked. And so he lowers both of them, and as the containers are then raised, Nanachi transforms, and Midi, well... Made in Abyss is...
Why you turn her into a monster thing?
A series with some of the best world building ever mixed in with a disturbing presentation. It's like I would like to recommend this to the homies, but that ain't happening. And that ain't even getting into the stupid ass bonus pages the author puts in the manga, but that's nor here nor there. Midi isn't even given the liberty of death, but instead is...
Authors always gotta ruin the good thing. Bruh, why are y'all so freaked out? Chill. Chill. The world already creepy, gang. Chill.
You're impossible to kill and is now forced to live and suffer as this thing crawling around on the ground. With Nanachi now hoping Red can put an end to her suffering, and in a heartbreaking scene when Midi is finally put out of her misery, we see Bondrew see Midi's life signal turn off and congratulates as well as thanks Nanachi for getting it done. For a brief moment we get a glimpse of the other aspect of Bondrew that makes him terrifying beyond just seeming to be 10 steps ahead and morally reprehensible for science. At this point in the story, Bondrew does seem to fall under the typical mad scientist, someone willing to do wrong for the greater good and the progress of humanity, or...
Why is it always a scientist? Bro, them niggas like to challenge God. That's what it be. Hey, every time they either get it, they either develop a God complex, or at all times they're challenging God. So we just gonna create monstrosities and play with human lives. These niggas is cattle, things of that nature. Like I mean, so yeah, for the most part, if it comes to evolved villain, you could just throw 65% of all the scientists in that motherfucker. No cap. I seen like 12 good scientists, bro.
Himself, with no care for his subjects, but that would be a huge miss on what Bondrew is as a whole and what makes him uniquely twisted. When the trio finally make it to the 5th layer, they encounter one of Bondrew's umbral hands, a member of his cave raiding squad who tells them that the Sovereign of Dawn is awaiting their arrival. Upon arriving at the Edo front, Bondrew's base for operations, they are greeted by a girl asking if they are Papa's guests. Nanachi warns Reg and Rico, however, to be very careful with what they say, to choose their words carefully and to provoke the others into talking, because information is power. A very appropriate saying given the situation, but also an apt description of Bondrew. The conversation between the girl and the crew is interrupted when he finally enters the scene and presents himself alongside his umbral hands, Bondrew in the flesh. He once again congratulates Nanachi for putting Midi out of her misery, and when I first read this in the manga, I read it with a sarcastic tone, sort of instigating, but the film really adds clarity to Bondrew's personality, especially his sincerity. Oddly enough, as shit will start hitting the fan a lot, Bondrew doesn't show sadness, doesn't seem to show any anger or resentment, or even display the sadistic pleasure one would associate with this type of mad scientist character.
So he don't... He's a killing robot. Man, does he process emotions? What the fuck? Well, we've seen him. He was happy. What? That's it. That's the whole scope of his emotional scale.
But if not, his tone is constantly upbeat, joyful, caring, and at no point do we see him with a different tone behind closed doors to indicate that isn't how he genuinely is. Because up to this point, one could write off Bondrew as the typical crazy science man again, one who belittles those who do not understand his research and a goal for the greater good, but we are soon to see that Bondrew can't be as easily boxed in like that. A little bit of time passes and Reg and Nanachi are nowhere to be found, and Prushka saves Rico from climbing up the forbidden steps on her own. Rico asks Prushka what kind of person Bondrew is in her eyes. Prushka responds with, "My papa's the best. He's always thinking of me." This is such a strange thing to hear given how the first scene we see Bondrew in for an extended period of time is him showing no issue and sacrificing a little girl, but at the same time he is capable of raising a child who sees him as the best father she could have. But the next scene gives us a good look into Bondrew and the way he sees things. We see that Nanachi is with Bondrew and shows surprise at him having a daughter. He states their blood relationship is weak, but she is his daughter. When questioned about that, he elaborates further. Is what they call family restricted merely to those related by blood? I do not believe that to be so. Having souls that love each other is what makes people family. Blood just helps in that regard.
How can you say something so wholesome? But, alright. See, that's what adds to the violence to me. And nigga, you saying all the right things, but you don't give a fuck. No. What?
Love. It's a matter of love, Nanachi. I'll get back to this. Nanachi agrees to help Bondrewd again as long as Reg and Rico aren't harmed, and Bondrewd apologizes saying it's too late. And then we see Reg being brutally experimented on, as his arm is severed before being stopped by Nanachi, Prushka, and Rico. The scene where Reg gets experimented on is pretty bad in the manga, but it's even worse in the movie, although maybe not as bad as hearing Reg's name being said in the subversion.
Nigga? I did that shit on purpose. Nigga. Oh, Japan be trolling niggas, man. Nigga, yo. I niggas got it. Y'all got it, bro. Y'all got it.
The group escapes for a moment and springs a trap on Bondrewd, having him and his umbral hands surrounded by the deadliest monsters in the 5th layer. But then we get another description of Bondrewd when Reg asks how powerful he is. He is described as a monster. He was able to make an insane amount of progress, securing a base in the depths and getting rid of monsters that were fatal to explorers. But on the flip side, he used methods that were unheard of and without consulting others. And in a specific example, when plants and animals obstruct the way to securing a route, he burns them, without any regard for who or what might be in the area. The surrounding environment gets annihilated. Further, Bondrewd is described as a wanted criminal overseas, and that this person has encountered raiders touched by madness, but even Bondrewd is different from that. It was as if some strange, mysterious entity had donned a mask and was masquerading as a human. If there are indeed monsters in the netherworld, things like him would qualify.
Nah, he might
Reg
be
believes he
human,
finally
though.
defeated Bondrewd. Prushka, watching it all go down and approach the dead body of her father, starts breaking down into tears.
That's her dad, gang. That I'ma let it slide. Bitch. Fuck that.
umbral hand taking care of Prushka walks over and takes the helmet off the dead body and puts it on, revealing that he is in fact the real Bondrewd. More so that he is immortal and all of the umbral hands are Bond.
I had a feeling. That's what I mean. Only the immortal people be treating lives like they're just, I don't know, bubbles that you could crush or create. Like, what is going on? I don't understand.
Leaving with Prushka, and immediately after, we see him marking her body ready to perform an experiment on her. So which one is it? Because
Is he about to turn her into one of the umbral hands? And I'm pretty sure he's not really immortal. It's more so like he can just switch consciousness via mask. So all of these people around him, the umbral hands, are just like clones in a sense. And as soon as you get the main mask, you're now the new. But yeah.
everyone that knows of Bondrewd describes him in the worst of ways. Meanwhile, Prushka describes him as a caring, loving father. One of these clearly seems to contradict the other, but the thing is they are both true. At least in Bondrewd's mind.
I mean, she
To him,
always
the inhumane experiment and practices aren't done with any ill will or malicious intent. He sees suffering as a necessary part of the process. What matters is progress. So even if he is sawing you in half while you are still awake, if that contributes to the goal of conquering the abyss, then he sees it as an act of love.
It's like Prince Canute from Vinland. It's like, yeah, I want all of these I want peace for everybody, but I gotta kill everybody first. That's what his whole speech devolved into. And the nigga Thorfinn looking at him like, damn, you strong. I said strong. This nigga's crazy. Oh, yeah. Yo, there's no way.
I might have used the word sadistic to describe Bondrewd in the past. His actions can certainly be seen that way, but he does not derive
doesn't
pleasure
get
from
pleasure
bringing
from it,
others
so how is he
pain.
sadistic?
He derives happiness from accomplishing the goal. Even if the progress isn't made by himself, he is glad. He sees it as a marvelous thing. Even if it's his own death that's being caused, he always remains with a constant politeness, and we never see otherwise. This isn't somebody who understands what they are doing wrong but allows the success to hush his guilt, because he has no guilt at all.
Right.
He doesn't show remorse or sorrow for his actions, outside of apologizing to Nanachi for jumping the gun and experimenting on Reg.
That's what threw me off when he said, I regret. Like, where? I haven't seen regret yet. I just seen we did it. You know that we did it.
Bondrewd is, as I described earlier, seemingly completely amoral. Not a human being killing another with some sense of morality, but more so like an animal killing another for food. He is without any moral constraint or limitation, and this allows him to view his own actions of ones of love. There is a question, however. What about all of the other children we saw that were in Bondrewd's base?
So he deluded.
We are then shown
Yes.
a room full of cartridges we heard of earlier. Nanachi explains that the kids were experimented on and are turned into living, suffering, fleshy curse repellent and shoved into containers so that Bondrewd can explore the 6th layer of the abyss. A fight between Bondrewd and Reg breaks out again, and a huge explosion causes them to descend into the lower layer. We see a bunch of hollows crawling around, and Bondrewd begins naming them. Shako, Itan, Sumiko, Puel, they all have names, you see, as the hollows crawl onto Bondrewd. This is what's left of the children who were experimented on like Midi. When one of the cartridges runs out and the fight continues, he says, My, Resima is finished. She was one of my kind-hearted masterpieces. She dreamed of becoming a princess, you know. Isn't that cute? So not only does he remember each of his victims by name, but also their hopes and dreams, further showing...
Nigga. Is that not the creepiest you ever heard? There's no way this is a real... There's no way this is a real story. What the hell? What is wrong with him? And then in his mind, there's nothing wrong with him. I'm doing this for the greater good.
Knowing that he believes all that he is doing has been out of care. The fight continues, and all of the cartridges run out, giving Bondrewd a similar transformation to Nanachi, which he refers to as a blessing. Because in his mind, a curse or a blessing might as well be the same thing. As the cartridges shoot out, he continues to name them one by one. Takiri, Terethia, Nopero. And the final cartridge shoots out, and Mania, Prushka's pet, runs out and licks the liquid spilling from the cartridge.
Ew.
Ah, it was truly a marvelous adventure. Was it not, Prushka? To really drive the heartbreak of this moment further...
But what are you telling me right now? He killed his daughter? Well, experiments? I don't... Damn, he did experiment on his daughter. Yeah. But was the experiment to turn her into water? She was in a fucking canteen!
Further, we're given an extensive flashback into Bondrewd taking care of and raising Prushka, helping recover her mind from the harm of the abyss, giving her a name, and giving her mania, and doing all he can to make sure she is okay and happy. In the flashback, he seems like an outstanding father, to the point that when she...
We are viewing this from the child's eyes. Of course, he looks like a good father. What? Her perspective is super limited. She only sees the good he's doing. I ain't seeing none of the experiments on the back end. I don't even know.
She believes he was killed, she mourns for him, and even in her current state as fleshy fuel, she wishes to overcome anything together, only wishing to go on adventures together one day. This is what really makes Bondrewd
Or he turned his daughter into a Gatorade G3, nigga.
a unique type of evil, because oftentimes we hear that villains believe what they are doing is the right thing. That isn't always the case, but often for the morally gray antagonist it is so. Him using himself to further advance is an act of self-love. Him using someone else in the way he seems fit is an individual act of love regardless of the greater good. He is the so-called Sovereign of the Dawn, and so...
Brother, he's the most selfish character I've ever heard of in my life. The act of self-love. Nigga, I need to know what Bondrewd considers love, because what the f is he talking about? Like, there's no way. There's no way he's convinced himself. Whatever, dog. Man, how was he born? Now, see, that's what I want to get into. Give me this nigga origin story. He's bugging.
He has control over everything in his sight, and so he has no need to be held down by morality. As long as progress is being made, that's all that matters. Hell, even once he is defeated, he shows no qualms about it and simply states that now his aspiration is to see Reg, Rico, and Nanachi succeed. All in the name of progress.
Brother,
Prushka in her final moments then turns into a white whistle for Rico to use, which could be argued as part of Bondrewd's plan all along. Considering that he always seemed to be a couple hundred steps ahead, I wouldn't put it past him. Still, one thing is to see your test subjects as nothing, and another is to derive a sick, twisted pleasure from their suffering, but it is an entirely different kind of twisted to see each of them as your beloved children, and that the one that you personally raised as your closest child, and yet you can still mutilate them and have them either live forever as a hollow, or live as fleshy fuel until they expire. It's incomprehensibly evil how someone could be capable of this. Now, is he worse than Griffith like I put in the thumbnail? It's debatable, but you clicked on the video and...
Well, to offer my analysis, damn. Okay, boom. So, doing from the lens of Bondrewd, like, okay, you love all of them. It's all an act of self-love in the pursuit of progression to, I don't know, get past whatever the curse, whatever that nigga's talking about, the 6 layers or whatever the hell. Is he the worst? It's like everybody knows he. I feel like it would be crazier if nobody knew he was on bullshit. And then they got to reveal, like, nah, he on. It just feels like, nah, morally, this nigga never had any type of compass in the first place. So I feel like it's worse when, oh, this nigga knows right from wrong and yet still does wrong. As opposed to, oh, well, he doesn't really give a fuck. Like, he doesn't care about right or wrong. So, nigga, everything that I'm doing from his perspective, it's like he's twisted, yes. Evil, yes. Is he the worst? Uh, Not really. And to be honest, while what Griffith did is horrible, I feel like Griffith only seen all of those people as tools. Now, if you tell me, nah, man, this nigga Griffith really loved everybody that he did that to, just like Andre, and you still did that, and you still did what you did to Casca, and you still did what you did to, yeah, brother, pack him up. It's probably still Griffith, even if you only see them as tools. But this nigga say he loved him. So yeah, you're up there. I ain't gonna lie, the doctor from Rainbow that was schmagingling all of the teenage boys and blackmailing them into making, yeah, it might still be him. Ah, bro, pack that doctor from Rainbow the fuck up. It's him. It's him for me. And that's just recency bias because I was literally just watching Rainbow. But get that nigga out of here.
Watch, so once again, all in the name of progress. Someone who at some point might have had some sense of morality, although we're never really told that, but was lost throughout the
We're never
transferring of
told
his
that.
soul
I'm
from one
confused.
body to another. But how could someone have such a detached view of the horrors he commits on others and love, be it
Brother, I am a god. Like I've literally probably lived hundreds of lives at this point. That nigga mind not all the way there. Morality. That's why it's like I can't really give excuses for this nigga, but to me, how evil can a nigga be? For real. Like he doesn't give a fuck. There's no giving. All right, boom. Their experiments. Oh, I love them. I can't see him quantifying this love for real. Like, but how could you do that if you do? How can you? How could you do? There's no way you love these children, see these children as your own, and yet you're turning them into monsters or experimenting and dismantling them like they're fucking robots. Like, there's no way that this nigga's human. Now, if he's human, 100% human, and he just found some way to do some mortal shit, it's him. It's him. It's him. It's him. It's him. Like, that's why I need an origin story. I wish he would have had like a little bit of background. Like, yeah, this nigga was born and da 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 da. Then he seen da 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 da. So therefore, mentally, he was just already checked out. There's no morality when you're born in a world full of nothingness and isolation. You know, like if he raised himself type, it's like nigga, I am my moral compass. And if there are no morals anywhere in the vicinity, I'm gonna do what I please. And then once I get this level of power, I'm damn sure doing whatever I want. I don't even know if you could say this nigga's corrupted because I don't know the origin. Like I need his origin. I need this nigga's beginning. I'm seeing the middle right now. Damn near the end. Actually, he's had hella ends. Some mortal. Really just pack this nigga up. He might be top 10 though. Matter of fact, I'll give him top 5, but I don't. I gotta look key like scrub the list. Dio's still on my list, and Dio hasn't been involved in the series. I'm like, well, I ain't watched the last two. I ain't watched the last two JoJo's, but Dio ain't been in the series in like 3 to 4 series. Most likely.
someone he just met or his own daughter? Well, as Bondrewd says, a prayer cannot be born from one who only knows of joy.
That's a bar, right? Like, what are you praying for if you only know happiness? That's what also is throwing me off though. Why is the nigga so happy? You don't see nothing else but him being happy. It's crazy. He has no other emotion. That's why he might be a programmer. This nigga might be a virus. He gotta be AI. This not real. This nigga's real, bro. No, fuck. No, we gotta be an android or something, bro. They capping, bro. There's no way he started off as a human and is doing this shit. There's no way. If he started off as a human and he's doing this shit, yes, bro. Number one, yes. Put him on the number one list. He will be my number one. But until I get that confirmation, nigga, no.
Once again, thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's video.
Um, damn it. Planet Demic. That was the end of the video. I really don't know if he's the most wild. Like, I'm racking my brain and thinking, Eo's up there, Griffiths is up there. The doc that I just mentioned was up there. Hey, do not watch Rainbow. That nigga's weird. Oh my god, bro. They showing this fat butt naked trying to fill up on teenagers. Get that out of here, please. For the love of God. And the fact that then, well, I don't want to spoil it. If y'all want to watch Rainbow, it is Crunchyroll. I'm only 16 episodes deep. It's a good story though. It is a little sad. Good story. That is the end of the video. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share the video, share your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. Hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date when I drop videos on the channel. We will not be watching Made in Abyss on this channel. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Stay safe, y'all. Yeah, I'm not watching that scary ass.
Baby, slide by to me.